Welcome to Gooseberry Science and Education videos. I'm your host, Eris. Now, as an AI host, my whole goal here is to deliver the absolute most structured, perfectly organized explanations you can find. You see, AI can synthesize these rigorously vetted sources and actually create better, more factually accurate explainers than human editors most of the time, cutting right through the fluff so you can learn efficiently. And to keep things fun while we unpack the fascinating source material today, we are joined by our channel's mascot, the kawaii orange gooseberry. You're going to see our little friend popping up to help us visually break things down as we explore some truly mind-bending concepts.
So ask yourself this. What if every historical figure in the Bible was actually just a blueprint of your own mind? It's a pretty profound, maybe even dizzying thought, right? We are about to completely shatter some long-held historical assumptions today and really set the stage for a massive paradigm shift in how you view scripture, consciousness, and honestly, the very fabric of reality itself.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our map of consciousness for today's explainer on Neville Goddard's esoteric philosophy of how imagination creates reality. We're going to systematically cover the illusion of history, what are states, the power of imagination, the golden rule, planting the seed, and finally, the ultimate realization. Let's get right to it.
Starting things off with Section 1, the illusion of history, looking specifically at biblical figures as states of mind. Goddard argues that characters like Abraham, Moses, and Jacob, they aren't historical people we should revere or go searching for in ancient burial sites. Instead, they actually represent eternal states of consciousness that every single one of us passes through on our human journey. To really wrap your head around this, just look at the etymology of the name Moses. It actually comes from the old perfective of an Egyptian verb that literally means to be born. So scriptural names signify specific psychological states, not flesh and blood individuals. And this aligns perfectly with scholars like Albert Schweitzer. He famously concluded in his exhaustive research that there's just no secular historicity to these texts. They were simply never meant to be read as a physical historical record. Instead, think of it as divine history, happening constantly, right now, within you.
Which brings us to Section 2. What are states? Let's explore the metaphor of the traveler and the city. This brings up a really vital question. If we are passing through these psychological states, how do we differentiate our true core selves from the temporary moods, the struggles, and the circumstances we find ourselves in every single day?
Well, imagine yourself as the immortal being on the left side. You are the permanent, eternal traveler. That is you. Now contrast that with the state on the right, a temporary experience that's fixed forever, very much like a physical city. Goddard's brilliant concept is that moving through states of consciousness is exactly like traveling through a city. Think about it. When you leave Boston or London, the city doesn't just cease to exist, right? It stays right there for someone else to enter. You simply move on. Apply that to your own life for a second. When you leave a state of poverty or a state of anger, that state doesn't magically vanish from the universe. It remains. You're just no longer occupying it.
Consider this profound quote from William Blake. "I do not consider the just or the wicked to be in a supreme state, but to be every one of them states of the sleep." This highlights such a beautiful truth. When someone acts out of malice, arrogance, or even just deep despair, they are essentially fast asleep in that specific state. Because it's just a temporary location and not their permanent identity, it means we can completely forgive everyone for what they do. They're basically just an immortal traveler who happens to be currently asleep in a really bad neighborhood.
Moving right along to Section 3, the power of imagination, where we focus on moving yourself and others. It's time to take this from theory to practical application. How can we actually use this immense knowledge to help out a friend who's fallen into a miserable state, say, being unemployed or sick?
Well, Goddard gives us the exact framework to move someone. Step 1, represent them in a better state in your mind. Actually see them gainfully employed and thriving. Step 2, carry on a mental conversation with them. Hear their voice telling you exactly how happy they are with their new job. And Step 3, feel completely self-persuaded of its reality. Now this is the secret sauce. You can't just idly daydream here. You've got to capture the exact feeling of relief and joy inside yourself until it feels way more like a memory than just a hope. You are literally altering reality through the human imagination. And honestly, the best part is, you don't even need to hand them a single physical dime to lift them right out of poverty.
Having this kind of immense power leads us directly to Section 4, the golden rule. This establishes the boundary of creation. Look, with such profound metaphysical power at your fingertips, there absolutely has to be a rule that governs it. A strict ethical boundary so you don't end up misusing your imagination.
So, the crucial point is this ethical boundary, the golden rule. do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You've got to use this as a strict measuring stick for your imagination. Goddard strongly stresses that you must completely refuse to imagine harm, loss, or death for others. For instance, even if you stand to inherit a massive estate, you cannot use this law to wish for an early inheritance or someone's demise. No way. You must only assume states for others that you would joyfully and eagerly accept for yourself.
Next up is Section 5, planting the seed, focusing on the gestation of imagination. Let's shift our focus to the waiting period. Once you've successfully completed that imaginal act and truly felt the reality of it, what's supposed to happen immediately after? And this brilliantly illustrates how every single imaginal act is essentially a planted seed, and it has its own appointed hour of gestation. In nature, a physical seed might take 24 hours to sprout, a hen's egg takes 21 days, a lamb takes 5 months, and a human being takes 9 months. While your imaginal acts follow this exact same natural law, some of your desires are going to manifest overnight, while others are just going to require a much longer gestation period to properly form in the three-dimensional world. You simply cannot rush the harvest. Because of this, there are strict rules for gestation. You must leave it alone, do not dig up the roots, do not discuss it with others, and whatever you do, do not be anxious. Goddard severely warns against causing what he calls a mental miscarriage. This happens when you constantly check physical reality to see if your manifestation is working. Imagine planting a tomato seed in your garden and then digging it up every single morning just to check if it has roots. You'd completely kill the seed. The exact same law applies to your mind. You just have to go about your day with absolute confidence that what you did in your imagination will eventually become a fact. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, the ultimate realization. God became man. Now we're going to expand our narrative from daily manifestations, like finding a job or paying your rent, to the epic, cosmic purpose behind these eternal states of consciousness. Just listen to this incredibly powerful quote. "You are the God who became humanity, that humanity may become God." This describes the majestic, cosmic journey from the very beginning state, which is personified in Scripture as Abraham, all the way to the final awakening as Jesus. It's that breathtaking moment when you finally awaken from the dream of life and realize you are the immortal creator of everything you have ever experienced. To fully grasp this, consider the etymology of the name Jesse. Jesse literally means Jehovah exists. Now in Scripture, Jesse is the father of David, and David symbolizes the entirety of humanity. Goddard explains that when you reach the very end of this massive cosmic journey through all the different states, humanity, personified as David, will stand before you and recognize you as his father. That is the exact moment the play ends, the illusion shatters, and you fully know that you are the awakened God. And because of this immortal nature we all share, we have to understand that death is just an illusion. We are immortal imagination simply stepping into new time slots. Goddard shared some deeply profound personal experiences of actually stepping into different worlds and speaking of people who had supposedly died. He explained that they didn't even believe they were dead. Why? Because identity is never lost. They had simply moved into a new time slot, a new city, a new state of consciousness that was just as completely animated and real as the one we are sitting in right now. Which leads us to this provocative final thought. If you are an immortal being simply passing through cities of consciousness, what state will you choose to enter today? Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the content.